He'd been serving drinks all night, smiling for customers who barely looked at him. But when one man walked in, a billionaire draped in power and arrogance, Darius's hands began to tremble. It wasn't fear. It was recognition. On that man's finger glimmered the same ruby ring his mother once wore. The ring she swore was a curse. Within minutes, their lives would collide in a way that would be remembered for years. What happened next would not only expose one man's crimes, but a truth no one wanted to face. Darius Cole was used to blending into the background. At 26, he worked long nights at one of Beverly Hills' most exclusive hotels, balancing trays of champagne and polite smiles for people who barely noticed his name tag. Every tip mattered, rent wasn't cheap, and the bills kept coming. But beneath the calm, Darius carried a weight most people couldn't see. His mother, Elaine Cole, had been his anchor, strong, proud, and endlessly protective. Years earlier, she had worked for a man whose wealth could buy silence, loyalty, and fear. She never spoke much about him, only warning Darius to stay away from powerful men who smiled too easily. On this particular night, the Grand Imperial's ballroom glittered with diamonds and designer gowns. Darius moved from table to table, focused on his work. Then, through the golden light and soft music, he saw him, the man from his mother's past. And on his finger, that same ruby ring. He didn't know exactly how this night would end, but he knew one thing: nothing would ever be the same. The moment Darius saw the ruby ring, his mind flashed back to his mother's trembling hands, the way she'd clutched his face and whispered, "Some people can destroy you without ever raising their voice." He knew the man's name: Edward Kingsley, a real estate tycoon worth billions, known for building empires and crushing anyone in his way. To the wealthy crowd in the ballroom, Kingsley was a philanthropist. To Elaine Cole, he had been a shadow she could never escape. Darius's chest tightened as he carried a tray toward Kingsley's table. The billionaire laughed with politicians, CEOs, and Hollywood elites, all of them oblivious to the quiet storm standing just a few feet away. This wasn't the first time Darius had seen injustice up close. Working in luxury service, he'd learned how people like Kingsley looked straight through him, as if his skin made him part of the furniture. But tonight was different. Tonight he had a plan. For 2 years, he had gathered pieces of a puzzle, old newspaper clippings, whispers from his mother's friends, and public records that didn't add up. He had even met with an assistant district attorney, Rachel Park, who agreed that if they could get concrete evidence, they could bring Kingsley down. Still, there was a risk. One wrong move and Kingsley could destroy his life just as easily as he had ruined Elaine's. As the night went on, Darius maneuvered through the glittering crowd, pretending to refill glasses while discreetly recording Kingsley's voice with a hidden device. The billionaire's careless arrogance worked in Darius's favor. He bragged about deals, hinted at arrangements that skirted the law. Then something unexpected happened. A young man in a tailored navy suit, Kingsley's own son, Andrew, approached Darius in the service hallway. His voice was low, almost urgent. Without warning, he slipped an envelope into Darius's pocket and whispered, "He's worse than you think. Use this." Inside the envelope were photocopies of contracts, offshore bank records, and letters, proof of decades of crimes. The stakes had just skyrocketed. If Darius made a move too soon, Kingsley could vanish before the law caught up. If he waited too long, the evidence might be traced back to him or Andrew. And then, the announcement came over the microphone. The charity auction was about to begin. The spotlight would be on Kingsley. Cameras would be rolling. It would be the perfect moment to strike, but also the most dangerous. Darius steadied his breathing, the weight of the envelope like a live wire in his pocket. Somewhere deep inside, he could feel his mother's presence, pushing him forward. The world was about to watch a man who thought he was untouchable face the one thing he couldn't control: the truth. The ballroom glittered under chandeliers, the hum of laughter and champagne glasses masking the storm building inside Darius. Kingsley stood at the podium, flashing his signature smile for the cameras. To the world, he was a generous titan, raising millions for charity. To Darius, he was the man who had stolen his mother's peace, and now her life. Darius stepped forward from the side of the stage, tray in one hand, envelope in the other. For a split second, the billionaire didn't notice him. Then their eyes locked. Silence rippled through the crowd as Darius extended the envelope. "For you, sir," he said, loud enough for the microphone to catch. The cameras swung toward them. Kingsley reached for it, but the second his fingers touched the thick paper, his smile faltered. Darius didn't stop there. "Inside," he continued, his voice steady despite the pounding in his chest, "is the truth about the man standing here tonight." Gasps broke out across the room. The sound of camera shutters erupted like gunfire. Kingsley's face drained of color as federal agents moved in from the back. One stepped onto the stage reading out a warrant. The crowd erupted into chaos. Reporters shouting questions, guests whispering in disbelief. Kingsley's hand twitched toward Darius, his mouth forming the start of a threat, but the agents were faster. Handcuffs clicked around the billionaire's wrists under the glow of 100 flashing bulbs. His perfect image was shattering in real time. For the first time, Darius felt the weight on his chest ease. Not because the fight was over, but because the world was finally watching. Kingsley turned his head, locking eyes with Darius one last time. No smile, no arrogance, just a look that said he knew exactly who had ended his reign. And yet, deep down, Darius understood. This moment wasn't the end. It was the beginning of a storm that would shake everything. In the weeks that followed, the headlines didn't stop. Billionaire arrested at charity gala. Decades of corruption exposed. The evidence Andrew had provided, combined with Darius's recordings, was airtight. In court, Edward Kingsley was sentenced to 25 years in federal prison. His empire crumbled overnight. For Darius, the victory was bittersweet. His mother hadn't lived to see this moment, but her voice still echoed in his mind, warning him, guiding him, reminding him that silence only protects the powerful. He took the settlement money awarded to him and founded the Elaine Cole Foundation, dedicated to helping victims of corporate intimidation and racial discrimination fight back. The case became a landmark, known in legal circles as the Cole Doctrine, a precedent proving that even the most untouchable can fall when the truth is brought to light. For countless people, Darius wasn't just a waiter who challenged a billionaire. He was proof that justice could still win, even in a system stacked against the powerless. But beneath the celebration, there was an unshakable truth. This story wasn't unique. Across the country, powerful people still silenced those without wealth, influence, or the right skin color. Elaine's story could have been anyone's. Darius often stood outside the foundation's office at night, looking up at the city lights, knowing the fight was far from over. Justice wasn't a moment, it was a lifetime's work. Because in a world where money can buy silence, the question isn't whether injustice will happen again. It's whether enough of us will have the courage to speak when it does. What do you think? Was Darius brave, or was he risking everything for a fight he might have lost? If his mother were here, would she be proud of what he did? Share your thoughts below, and if you believe stories like this need to be told, make sure to like this video and subscribe for more.